Hi, I am Shannon Renee with Authentically Momming, and this is Mothers Are Source. Source, someone that causes or produces life, produces the origin of, a source of energy. As a former single mom, I am extremely passionate about bringing awareness to the lives of single mothers. Mothers are our source. We are the source of our children. We are the cause of life. We produce life. Our Creator created us fearfully, creating us beautifully, creating us to be the source life is formed in. For many women, we dream of the day we will become mothers, how we will feel, the overwhelming love we feel for our children, the baby smell, the snuggles, the first laugh, their first word, raising them with someone we love, trust, and cherish, someone we hoped to share our life with and raise our babies with. There are not many women who had it in their hearts to do it all on their own. Becoming a single mother is usually never planned, but happens in many different ways. Please join me as I share the inspirational stories of incredibly strong, brave, and beautiful single mothers around the world. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I just wanted to make you all aware that our story today does involve some violence, some emotional, and some physical abuse. So I just want to put that out there. If you have experienced any of this, or if this is triggering for you, please tread lightly if you decide to listen to this story. I just wanted to put that out there and prepare you. And this is the story of Tiffany. Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. All right. Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Shannon. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to start off with just asking you some kind of fun questions to get to know you better. So I love to start just by asking, like I just said, some fun questions. As a mom, what are your must-haves in the morning to kind of get your day started?
So, my kids don't like it, but every morning I turn on the radio to listen to my favorite talk show in the morning. My parents did it when I was growing up, so it's just second nature, but
Yeah.
my kids haven't caught on.
What's the
And
talk show?
um, I think it's a different name. It used to be called the Z Morning Zoo. I think it's like Elvis Duran in the morning show or something like that.
Okay.
It's been on since I was in fourth grade.
Oh, wow. Fun.
But it's like the big one in the New York area.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So anything else?
Coffee.
Coffee. Yes. 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 I think we both have our coffee. um, and if you could give up one duty as a mom, what would it be?
Cleaning.
Cleaning, cleaning up
Yeah.
after your kids.
Yeah, all of the cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the dishes,
Yeah.
all of that I would get rid of if I could.
Yes. Yes. Um, and what is your favorite thing about being a mom?
It's hard to say if I would pick observing them or interacting with them, but just watching them grow up and turn into these like individual people, it's incredible. It's really cool. And then
Yeah.
being a part of their lives, not just seeing it happen, but being involved in everything and being that person that's the closest to them, it's an honor,
Yeah.
and it makes all the hard stuff worth it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And what are your you have one,
Two.
two. Okay. What are their ages? And
Um, my
boy, girl.
son my son is about to be 15, and my daughter will be 13 next month.
Okay. Teenagers. Um, and if you could magically have an extra hour in the day that nobody else had, what would you do with it?
That is such a hard question, but a good one. um, it's really hard to pick. I mean, I would say exercising, because that's always hard to squeeze in, or
Mm-hmm.
sleeping, because that's always hard to get the full 8 hours. Or when I want to have fun that I don't normally get a chance to have. I don't know. That's a
Yeah,
tough one.
those are all good ones. Yeah, this morning for me, I was supposed to get up at 6:30 and get in my workout and get in a shower and then take my son to daycare. And my husband was supposed to take the other two to school, but he, something always happens. And
Right.
my husband woke up not feeling the greatest. So then I had to do all the mom things. So I didn't get my workout, didn't get my shower. So I probably would have chose to use that extra hour to do that today.
Yeah. Yeah. Workout's always the first thing to get cut out of the day.
Yep. Yep. For sure. Now we're going to get into the journey of you becoming a single mom. Do you want to share a little bit about your life before you became a single mom?
Sure. I mean, I was 16 when I got pregnant, so there wasn't that much life beforehand. I was a kid.
Mm.
I was graduating early when I was 60. I was a sophomore and I was getting my diploma that year,
Oh, wow.
and I was not in a relationship. I had just ended like a very short relationship. And I found out I was pregnant 2 days before my graduation.
Wow.
So everything kind of started with becoming a mom.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
much, really not much had happened beforehand.
Yeah. Can you share, like, if you don't mind, what that relationship was like, you getting pregnant
Um,
and
it was really short. We dated for not even a month, I think.
Mhm.
And I didn't like his attitude. He
Yeah.
was, kind of selfish. He was a 19-year-old kid, so that's not surprising. But yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't like the way he treated me. Not that he was out of control or anything. He just
Yeah.
wasn't that nice.
Yeah.
And so we broke up. And then I found out I was pregnant, and he continued to not be very nice.
Mhm.
So that was pretty much that. We've had like almost zero interaction
Yeah.
um ever since. But and then I did get married after that. After my son was born, I did get married to somebody else and have another child. And then I became a single mom again.
Okay. So share with your when you found out at 16 you were pregnant, like what was going, like how did you find out? What were your emotions?
I guess I was in denial that it could be true. My best friend was convinced that I was pregnant, and I was like, no, 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 there's no way. Let's just give it a few more weeks. And
Mm.
um, she became insistent that I take a test. And we were at the mall together, and she went in the store and bought me a test and then took me into the McDonald's bathroom to take it right then and there.
Mhm.
And I really just took it to shut her up so she would stop telling me I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And I did my thing and handed her the test while I washed my hands. And she says, "Hey, Tiffany, this says pregnant." It was the kind that's digital. It doesn't
Yeah.
say like plus or minus.
Yeah.
It said pregnant, and I I couldn't believe it. I thought it had to be wrong somehow, or she was messing with me. I
Yeah.
just That's a lot for a kid to wrap their head around. Even an
Yeah.
adult, it's hard.
Oh yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah, it was a big shock.
Mhm. Yeah. What happened after that? How did you like tell people?
Um, well, my friend called the father and kind of chewed him out.
Mhm.
So that's how he found out. And I told my aunt that night. I stayed at her house to kind of counsel me through how I'm gonna tell my mom. Um, and then the next day, I told my mom while my dad was at work,
Mhm.
and she was not happy. I guess she was surprised because she raised me alone. She got married and her husband adopted me when I was 10. So I guess she just assumed that I was too smart to do that.
Mhm.
And so I felt like a lot of disappointment from her.
Yeah.
And then when my dad did come home, we told him and he cried.
Mm.
And I think that was the second time I had ever seen him cry.
Yeah.
So that was rough. And yeah, it was a really hard
Yeah.
pregnancy. There wasn't a lot of joy surrounding it. Um, some here and there, but for the most part, I felt like my parents didn't trust me anymore,
Yeah.
and they were gonna push me to get my act together.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so tough. What a hard time.
Yeah.
Did you have anyone there, like, to be a support system for you? It sounds like your
Um,
aunt maybe, and maybe your friend or
yeah, my relatives were touch and go. It was fluctuated how much support I had.
Mhm.
And then kind of same with my friends because they were all young.
Yeah.
And so, they don't want to sit around with a baby all the time,
Yeah.
or listen to me complain about being pregnant.
Yeah.
But I mean, they did for the most part. I had my support system with my friends. Of course, they don't understand it totally. And
Yeah.
then my family, like I said, kind of the juxtaposition with being happy that we're going to have a baby in the family, with they don't really know how this is all going to shake out. And
Mhm.
yeah, like I said, the distrust.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I had a whole lot of support. I felt like I had a lot to prove to
Yeah.
get support.
Mhm. For sure. Now what about your labor and the birth? Were you alone? Did you have somebody with you? What was that like?
I thought I was going to be alone, but my friend ended up staying in the room with me. I had to ask my mom to leave the room. So I told her I didn't want her there during the birth
Mhm.
because she stresses me out.
Mhm.
So I had to tell her to leave, and she got upset. And the nurse that I was in labor for like 21 hours. So the first shift nurse, she was older, and she wasn't very supportive or kind to me.
Mhm.
Um, and she was upset with me for wanting my mom out of the room. But it was scary, and I just didn't have that feeling with my mom where like I wanted her when I was scared. It was more like the reverse. Like if I
Yeah.
was in some kind of despair, I needed her to go away
Mhm.
because it would make me more anxious.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that was hard. But I wanted to give a little shout out to the second nurse I had. She was really awesome.
Oh, that's
She
good.
treated me just like any other mom. You would never know from how she talked to me that, I was a barely 17-year-old giving birth by myself, basically.
Yeah.
She treated me with a lot of dignity and respect, and it
That
made a big difference because the first half of the day, as if I wasn't going through enough, having the nurse's attitude just made it
yeah.
that much harder.
Yeah. Do you feel her attitude was because of your age and that you were doing this alone?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I that's one of the things I really want to bring awareness to is just how single moms can be treated differently and disrespectfully, without anybody even knowing them or knowing their story. And just, it's just, I had an experience with a nurse as well. Two of the nurses I had when I was giving birth with my daughter was like really just disrespectful. And yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
I'm
shame.
really, sorry.
I guess they can get jaded from all the things that they see on a daily basis, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I think everyone deserves, the same respect no matter what kind of person they are. Giving
yeah,
birth is not it's not an easy thing no matter what your circumstance is, and it
exactly.
should just be a uniform level of treatment for
Yes.
all of them.
Yes. I always say, like, when you're like giving birth and like that day and like your wedding day, those are the 2 days that you should be able to have whatever you want and as much like love and support as you need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell me, in between giving birth with your first and then your second, like what was the time difference? Like when did you
They're
about
just
that?
over 2 years apart.
Okay.
So I met I met my ex-husband right around my son's first birthday.
Okay.
So obviously we moved quick. Um, we kind of met and he was, on kind of the same page, wanting to get married and have kids. He was a couple years older than me. And, I didn't want my son to be an only child because I'm an only child.
Mhm.
So I knew I wanted to have another child soon. And, he was a nice guy, and he was willing to get married and have another baby. So
Mhm.
that's what I did. And then my daughter was born like barely a year after I met him. But, I was definitely committed to, the marriage and our family. And I think he was too. My son grew up calling him dad. He really didn't know his biological father. Both kids were raised in the house together with the two of us
Mhm.
until we split up.
Mhm. So tell me about that experience, like when you found out you were pregnant and like telling him, telling your family, like did that go any better, any different than the first?
Yeah, it did. Because we were trying on purpose,
Yeah.
so that was different.
Yeah. Good.
um, and so it was really cool when I took the test. He was there with me when I took the test.
Mhm.
I waited like the earliest day that I could take it.
Mhm.
We took it together, and it was entirely different. We
Mhm.
smiled, laughed, hugged. We were really excited.
Mhm.
Um, I was a little less excited to tell my mom because I didn't think she would understand the desire to have another child. Um, but I guess she was better because I was married, and she liked him, and we had our own place and we were pretty stable. So she wasn't too upset.
Okay.
And then she had a granddaughter, so she
Yeah.
really couldn't be upset.
Yeah. And what was that birth like? Was he there and supportive?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he held my hand the whole time. He cut the umbilical cord. He changed her first diaper. Um, my whole family, even with both my kids, both of my families, or with both of my children, my entire family kind of came together
Yeah.
because, we have a lot of drama in my family. And so for everyone to have something in common is rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, everyone did come together for both children. So, say, that was a positive that came out of both.
Yeah. Good. Good. So tell me kind of about your journey to becoming a single mom with him.
Well, I had written this down when I was going through your questions,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry, so he was abused as a child, and I had been sexually abused myself. So I felt like we had a bond over, having traumatic experiences as children.
Mhm.
And I felt that he had overcome it a lot. Not that, you ever really overcome something like that, but that he was in a good way, I guess. Um, and then, like I said, I already had a baby with him within almost a year of knowing him. And it wasn't until really after my daughter was born that I started to see that he was not okay. Um, he had really deep seated issues. And his mother, the whole time we were together, as soon as she found out I was pregnant, she was telling me to leave him and
Mm.
that things were going to get bad. And
Mm.
I didn't believe her. I felt bad for him that she would talk about him that way.
Yeah.
And I felt, obligated that that was my husband and he needed me.
Mhm.
And I really, that mindset, on one side is a good way to look at it when you're married to somebody. It
Mhm.
also hurt me a lot to feel that responsibility
Yeah, that's a lot.
because, his issues would manifest in ways that directly hurt me.
Mm.
And so it took 3 years before I said enough, that if anything, this is getting worse, not better. And
Mhm.
I didn't know what else to do. We had
Mhm.
tried therapy, individually and together. Um, and like I said, it just kept getting worse. So I finally made the decision to separate.
Mhm.
And
You
initially, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if you mind, like, going into more detail about what the issues were, like, how it was directly affecting you.
Um, he seemed to have like a sexual addiction where, he wanted me to do things that I wasn't okay with.
Mhm.
And he wanted to do things with other people that I
Mhm.
obviously wasn't okay with.
Mhm.
Um, and just, he would disappear, he would lie.
Yeah.
And, I found out that had been going on while I was pregnant.
Mm.
And I felt things were off while I was pregnant, but, I blamed it on hormones and,
Yeah.
you know, all the things that you do when you're in denial about things like that or trying to rationalize what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, and so then finding out like the truth, and then I would keep finding out the truth. Like I would say, okay, this is it, and it was like the reset date, you know, February 9th was the last time anything happened. And then February 20th, something would happen again. And it was just this constant upheaval and trauma over and over again
Yeah.
that I wasn't, I knew I wasn't capable of being the mom that I wanted to be
Mhm.
while going through that on like a monthly, weekly, daily basis.
Mhm.
And I needed to separate from him so that I could heal myself and protect myself
Mhm.
from the pain that was going on being married to him.
Yeah. Can you tell me more, like, just how you were feeling, like, emotionally?
Um, it was lonely and isolating
Yeah.
because I didn't want to tell people what was going on.
Yeah.
That's uh, on one hand, it feels like a betrayal to him
Yeah.
to, put all his business out there.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it was embarrassing for me to
Mhm.
even say those words.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like women, we have this really strong like intuition and like this gut like instinct, and for whatever reason so often when it comes to like the men we love, like we just tend to like we just keep ignoring it and ignoring it. And um yeah, that's something I'm really passionate about, like working through. And because something with me is I did the same thing, like I just kept like I knew stuff was like wrong and stuff was not right, but I'm just like, no, like I'm going to be here for him and he's going to change for me. And I just kept ignoring it. And then now, like, I realize like I really struggle with my intuition, even like my intuition as a mom. And I realized that that's because it's kind of like almost like stuck because I ignored it and kept pushing it away for so long.
Right.
So, yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
something, like, important to, like, realize and, like, work through.
Yeah. And it's hard. I mean, I don't know if I ever could have, at the very first sign that something was wrong, to throw my hands up and say, all right, that's it.
Yeah.
I felt obligated to put in all
Yeah,
that I had.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's also something that women struggle with too. I think the bar is set really high for wives and mothers
Mhm,
to endure
mhm.
and, empty themselves into their obligations.
Yeah, we feel, especially in a marriage, you feel like you have to, like, do whatever you can, even if it, is costing your health. So,
Right.
and it sounds like you did do everything you could. You did, you tried to do therapy and, like, everything. So at what point, like what was the point where you're like, okay, this is enough. I need to get out.
Um, there there wasn't really one event. I guess my wake up call, it sounds kind of silly, but I was playing this online game. It was kind of like The Sims, where you have like a little house and a
Mm,
little avatar that you dress up and stuff. And I started putting like so much effort into this fake cartoon's life.
mhm.
She had, the clothes that I wanted, and she had the furniture that I wanted. And,
Yeah.
if I interacted with people in the game, I didn't talk about what my real life was like.
Yeah.
I was somebody else. I didn't want to talk about reality. And I guess I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm sick of playing this game to escape my real life.
Yeah.
Like, I was only 22. I'm like, I don't want this to be like the beginning of the end for me. Like,
Yeah.
where my life is already so sad, I pretend it's not real. I
Mm,
wanted I wanted to be happy and proud of my life,
yeah.
and I didn't want to be losing myself at 22 years old, and that's what I felt was happening.
Yeah. Okay. So did you tell him? Like, did how did that what did that look like? Actually, like the process of
Um,
meeting him.
Initially, it didn't look all that different from the other times because, things would come to a boiling point, and I would say, you have to do this, this, and this, or I'm leaving. And, that had been going on for at least a year or two. And then, this one day there was no choice. It was just, that's it. And there wasn't even really a fight that day. It was just, I knew that nothing was changing. I didn't need to wait for the other shoe to drop again. I just knew that this was how it is. Like you said, intuition, I could feel it all the time. My intuition never told me things are different now. And so I just told him that, we needed to separate because I wasn't doing well and my kids were getting older and I wanted them to feel like they lived in a happy place.
Mm-hmm.
And, we worked things out pretty amicably at first. He actually went and lived at my aunt's house and, he would come over and spend time with the kids. And he very willingly gave me money to support them, like more than I asked for. It's like he was trying to be extra nice.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, at first things seemed okay with our separation.
Okay. Um, you shared with me, if you don't mind sharing again, but you shared with me like a pretty scary moment that you had with him after your separation.
Um, there were two incidents.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I discussed both of them previously, but the first incident, we had been separated about 3 or 4 months, and at that point, he had stopped living with my aunt, and he was back living at the house, but on the couch, just to save both of us money. And we would try not to be at home at the same time unless we were like sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So, he was at work all day and I would be home with the kids and then I would go to work, stuff like that. And this one night, he was really insistent that I spend the night at my friend's house. And I didn't really understand why. He said he was trying to be nice. He wanted me to go see my friend and have fun and don't worry about the kids. He'll take them to the babysitter in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a weird feeling while I was at my friend's house. And I said, something's not right. He's not answering his phone. And I didn't feel right. And I drove, her house was like an hour away. I drove all the way home and he wasn't there. And my kids were in the house by themselves sleeping. This was at like midnight, 1 a.m.
Tell me how old your kids were.
My son had just turned 5 and my daughter was just about to turn 3. It was like a couple of days before her birthday.
Mm.
So I couldn't believe it because that wasn't the person I knew. Like
Yeah.
as crappy of a husband as he was always a good dad.
Yeah.
And it was like, everything his mom told me was coming true. Like he was somebody else under there
Yeah.
who
Oh,
could, you know, lock their kids in the house. And he went out to a bar to hang out with a girl. Like, he could have just told me he wanted to do that and we were
yeah.
separated. I would have been like, okay. But it was like he would have rather kept it a secret and done that. Yeah. I still don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but then there was another incident after that. I think it was like a year or two. He didn't see the kids for a really long time after that. And then he had to take parenting classes and he was on probation because he did get arrested that night. Um, so after, he satisfied all his obligations
Good
legally,
for
I
you
started.
for like taking that really seriously and,
Yeah, that wasn't easy because I mean that really, that day it changed everything. I was alone after that. And I
Mhm.
can totally see why there's women who brush things like that under the rug because they need that person.
Yeah.
And, I felt that way too. Like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were splitting up, but he was helping me with the bills and, he was helping with the kids while I went to work.
Mhm.
You know, it it wasn't easy to make that call and to let the world know what he had done
Yeah.
because that there was no going back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, eventually I did let him see the kids again, and things were okay. It had been a couple of years by this point. They were 5 and 7. So yeah, 2 years later. Um, and Lord knows what he had been doing all those 2 years, but I had just started seeing somebody new, like within 6 months of this incident. He had met him. I tried to do everything right, had him meet him before he met the kids.
Mhm.
Um, make sure they were civil with each other so there wasn't drama in the kids' lives, that everything was as normal and peaceful as possible. And then one night he just got really angry. I I don't know what was going through his head, but he got really angry and told my boyfriend at the time to get out, and he chased us out with a knife, a big knife, and yeah, we managed to drive away and the police came really quickly. He was still outside with the knife when they got there. And
Where were your
then
kids at the time?
in bed, we had they had just gone to bed. So, but it was Mother's Day that day, so that's why my boyfriend was with us. He came with me and the kids to my parents that day, and then we got home late and put the kids to bed, and then we were just relaxing and everything seemed fine until it wasn't.
So he just showed up?
He was there, um like, yeah, for Mother's Day.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I was trying to be normal about everything.
Yeah.
So, I missed him being in the kids' lives. The kids missed him being in their lives because he had never done anything to them that they knew.
Yeah.
Obviously what he did locking them in the room was terrible, but
Yeah.
my kids didn't see it happen.
Yeah.
He was still a great dad to them.
Yeah.
So, I wanted all of that normalcy back as much as possible for them. And yeah, he just proved that day that you don't know what's going on under the surface with him.
Mhm.
Like, he might seem like a nice guy, a great dad, but there's something wrong and it wasn't safe.
Yeah. So what did you took off and did you like take your kids with you
No,
or
he chased us out of the house, and
okay.
I got into the passenger seat, which was nearer to the front door. My boyfriend got around to the driver's seat, and we didn't have power locks on that car. They were the kind you had to push.
Yeah.
So I pushed mine, and then I was reaching behind me to lock the door behind me, but he got into the door before I could lock it.
Mm.
So he was right behind my head, with the knife, and then my boyfriend put the car into reverse, and there was a tree right near the back door.
Yeah.
So because he had it open and his body halfway out, when my boyfriend put it in reverse, the tree kind of knocked my ex-husband out of the car and took the back door off with him.
Wow.
So we just, in that moment, we just had to get away from him
Yeah.
as fast as possible. But then, of course, as soon as the car is out of the driveway, I'm calling 911.
Yeah.
You have to get here. You have to get here. He's crazy. He has a knife. My kids are in the house.
Yeah.
And they did get there. so quickly. Like, I can't even believe how quickly they got. I don't even think he had time to get back in the house.
Yeah.
And, they came, got him on the ground, got the knife away from him. My kids never woke up.
Wow. Thank God for that. Thank God they didn't see
Yeah,
any of that.
I know. And then the next day, it was kind of like just like the same as the time before. They went to sleep and everything was normal. And then they wake up and he's been arrested again. And they don't know if they're ever going to see him again.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And now tell me what happened after that.
Um, I moved out of that house. I was already on my way moving out of the house. I just needed my son to finish
Hmm.
um, that grade in school because I didn't want him to be split in the
Yeah.
year. So I was just waiting until the school year was over, and then I was moving. I lived in New Jersey. That's where I grew up. It's so expensive. And that was a part of the struggle being separated. Paying for everything alone was impossible. So the plan was for me and the kids to move to Pennsylvania, which I did on schedule when he finished that grade in school. I think he was in first grade. Yeah. So that summer, I moved the kids out to Pennsylvania. We lived in a really teeny tiny trailer, but it was cheap, and all that extra money I just put in the bank and saved up until I could buy us a house, which
Hmm.
I did after 3.5 years.
Yeah. What were you doing for well, I'll get to so where was he during all of this? What were you doing
He
with
went to jail
him? Okay.
and I guess eventually got bailed out. I did have to go to court a couple of times for the criminal case and then
Mhm.
for the child support and divorce because we were actually still legally married
Yeah.
because I didn't have money. He wasn't giving me money anymore by
Yeah.
that point.
Hmm.
So, all my money went to paying the bills and taking care of the kids. I didn't have anything left over to pay for a divorce.
Yeah.
Um,
So through all that, all the legal stuff, did you like what happened with custody and everything?
they gave me a restraining order, permanent restraining order that included the kids. So
Yeah.
I didn't have to include him in anything. All of our information could be kept secret. He did try to have the restraining order amended, which kind of hurt because he only put my daughter in the petition, that he wanted to have like visitation or joint custody of her.
Yeah.
But, my son was just as much his, and he always said that.
Yeah.
If anything, my son knew him better because,
Yeah.
he was older when all this happened.
Yeah. Mm.
But the judge denied it without prejudice, pending like a psychological evaluation.
Yeah.
And apparently a psychological evaluation through the court, it's not just you sit with a therapist for an hour. It's extremely in depth,
Hmm.
and it's not just him. It would be me and the kids and all their grandparents, babysitters, everyone who interacts with the kids would have to meet with the psychiatrist sometimes more than once.
Wow.
It's really comprehensive.
Yeah.
So the judge said that all of that would have to be completed and the psychiatrist would have to sign off on visitation. And because of the circumstances, my ex-husband would have to pay for all of that. And we both got copies of the paperwork for the court appointed psychiatrist. And just the retainer was like $5,000. And then he would have to pay for like every hour of work that they put into it on top of that. So
Wow.
that was I think the beginning of 2014, so 7 years ago, and that was the last thing I ever heard from him.
Okay. Wow. Um, Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I just want to say just how strong you are. Like I feel you made so many like brave decisions and like made the best decisions for your kids. And like you should be really proud of yourself.
Thank you. It really, really means a lot to hear.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today and listening to Tiffany's story. This is just part one of her story, and we will continue next week with part two. Thank you so much again. Thank you, Tiffany, for joining us, for sharing your story, for being so brave and vulnerable. You are amazing. Your story is amazing, and I can't wait to continue